Hello, everyone. This is Andrea MacDonald. It's a presentation about depression. When I first started, I was planning to have my case study patient be a child. I changed my mind about halfway through, but this YouTube video has a pretty good explanation about depression. But I tried recording this a couple times, and for some reason, you really can't hear the video uh, talking in the background. So if you're interested, you can check on YouTube Depression Explained for Kids, and House of Spirits one is the person who uploaded it. So instead of play that for you, I'll just move on since it doesn't seem to be working. Okay. Okay. Contributing factors predisposing patients to depression include things like other psychobiological disorders, especially anxiety, childhood trauma, stressful events, substance use, pain, new or worsening medical conditions. Um, so cancer seems to be one that uh, definitely falls in that category. Genetics and family history and female gender hormones also contribute. Genetics, environmental factors, and other psychological disorders can cause abnormalities in the central nervous system neurotransmitters and lead to depression. So the transmitters affected in depression are acetylcholine, which helps regulate stress and mood; serotonin helps regulate mood, sleep, appetite, libido, stress, pain, perception; dopamine helps with integration of emotions and thought and decision making; and norepinephrine helps regulate mood, attention and arousal, fight or flight response to stress. So you can see how if a patient's these neurotransmitters are not working correctly, then all of those symptoms of depression you could struggle with. So our patient is Eldon McKay, theoretical patient. He's a 79-year-old Caucasian male. He's non-religious, retired artist. His father was a first-generation Irish immigrant. His mother was Métis. He lives at home with his wife near Prince Albert. He has sudden worsening of depression. Comorbidities include a recent CVA, urinary incontinence, hypertension, spinal stenosis, personal and family history of alcoholism, and an 18-pack per year smoking history. He has a supportive wife, and they have several close friends who live nearby. The patient's son and his family live nearby and visit regularly. The patient has a daughter in Regina who he sees occasionally. Therapeutic exchanges during the assessment. The nurse is giving recognition by saying, "You seem to be feeling much better. You've been working hard to reach your discharge goals." To encourage the patient to form a plan of action, the nurse says, "As you're getting ready to go home, we should review the plan. What does it mean to be having a particularly difficult time, and who would you reach out to for help when this happens next?" So the first care plan for Eldon is risk for suicide as evidenced by the following statements. "I should just get it over with and die. I'm just tired of living. If I just take all these pills at once, that will do the job." Our goal is the patient will remain safe in his room without suicidal plan or ideation until time of discharge in 3 days. Our interventions are the nursing staff and family will encourage patient to participate in group discussions, express his feelings, and identify alternative ways to cope. The patient's evaluation, the patient states, "I want to be alive and spend time with my friends and family. Though I still feel frustrated and helpless at times, I feel better about my situation and know how to get help." Our outcome is the goal is met, the patient has remained safe while in the hospital, and is ready for discharge. The second care plan is risk for self-care deficit, as evidenced by disheveled appearance and body odor. Our goal is the patient will demonstrate dressing and bathing activities to his ability throughout the hospitalization and will accept help where he is unable to perform the tasks independently. Our interventions, the nursing and occupational therapy staff will instruct the patient on the use of assistive devices and encourage the patient in self-care activities. Our evaluation, the patient maintains personal grooming and states, "I'm so happy that I can do most of this on my own now." Our outcome is the goal is met, the patient can perform the self-care and is ready for discharge. So he started on the SSRI, citalopram or Celexa. Our teaching includes you will be started on a low dose of Celexa and monitored. The dose may be gradually increased. Do not use alcohol or marijuana while taking Celexa. Do not stop taking this medication when you feel better. If it's determined that you should not be taking Celexa, you will taper off gradually. Implement a system to help ensure you take your medication at the prescribed time. Try using a pill box or always taking the medication at the same time every day. Sleep, energy, or appetite may show some improvement within the first 1 to 2 weeks. Improvement in these physical symptoms can be an important early signal that the medication is working. Depressed mood and lack of interest in activities may need up to 6 to 8 weeks to fully improve. So some side effects. Serious side effects to report to the physician. Worsening of depression, changes in vision or eye pain, tremor, black stool, and irregular heart rate. Older adults may be more sensitive to the side effects of this drug, especially bleeding, loss of coordination, and QT prolongation. So you could do several different care plans with a patient like this. He'll have risk for fall, he'll have risk for, um, altered thought process. He'll probably need some help understanding education about all of his medications and new meds. You may be more at risk for bleeding with this medication. With the medications you take post-stroke, review all medications and substances you take with your physician and pharmacist and monitor for bruising, bleeding of gums, and dark stool. Common side effects include GI upset, fatigue, low libido, headache, dry mouth, and sweating. Keep your follow-up appointments for continued monitoring. Some community resources for this patient include the Canadian Mental Health Association in Prince Albert, the Addictions and Mental Health Services Center, and Kingfisher Healing, which is a counseling center. So crisis intervention options for this patient are the Victoria Hospital and the Prince Albert Mobile Crisis Unit. That's the end. Thank you for listening.